Welcome to Satsang, and especially on such a beautifully auspicious day as the New Year. Really a time to be appreciating, celebrating the incredible blessings that we've been given. Even in the face of the hardship, in the face of the difficulties, in the face of the challenges. So many blessings we've been given in 2021. And also such a beautiful time for really focusing on what do I want to manifest through me. I don't mean manifest in terms of I'm going to open my eyes and there'll be a mound of money in front of me. Or I'm going to close my eyes and open them and I'll be CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. But I mean manifest through me, as who I am and how I move through the world. That freedom, that joy, that truth, that ease, that love. And we begin as always with a question that comes in advance from our beautiful family joining us through the gift of technology. From all over the world, people in their homes, their offices, their cars even, are joining in on YouTube, on Facebook, and they send in questions. So we begin with one of those and then open it to any questions that anyone here has. How does forgiveness help to bring more freedom in my life? So those of you who have been listening to satsang for a while or coming to satsang for a while know that I'm a very, very strong advocate for forgiveness. I've seen the incredible power of it in my own life. And I've seen it in the lives of so many. And the way that it brings freedom is that which I'm holding on to, the grudges, the pain, the anger, and also the identification as the one who was wronged, those become really my jail cell. I'm stuck. I think that by my anger or by my grudge, I'm making the other person stuck, that somehow if I don't forgive, they're going to be really in deep trouble. But actually the only thing that happens when I don't forgive is I'm in deep trouble. Most people think really tragically and mistakenly that we shouldn't forgive because what about things that are unforgivable? I mean, what about when people do things that really are horrible and horrendous and traumatic and unforgivable? Interestingly, that problem mixes up two completely different things that we think are connected, but they're not. Number one is what we call the law of karma. Whatever someone does, whatever seeds they are planting, that fruit is going to bear. The seed they plant is going to grow into a tree. The tree is going to give fruit. That fruit is going to show up in their life. Sweet or bitter, depending on the seeds they plant. The other piece is our freedom. Now those are two completely different things, but we mix them up together. And we think that somehow, in order to make sure that someone else gets their karmic due, I have to give up my freedom. I have to stay angry. I have to hold a grudge. I have to remember. I have to be in pain. And then the universe, only then will the universe give them their karmic due. But that isn't true. I always say that until and unless God comes up and, kind of taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, could you do me a favor? Like, get yourself a pad and a pen and start taking notes for me. I need you to write down who deserves what, who's owed what, who's done what. Like Santa Claus and his list, right, of who's been good and who's been bad. We think about the law of karma and God like that, as though somehow we have to be God's secretary, keep a list of who's harmed us, who's acted in violence, in ignorance, in falsehood, in harm. But that isn't true. God doesn't need a secretary. God doesn't need our notepad. The law of karma is not dependent upon us to remind it. It's like if you plant an apple seed. Nature knows how to turn that apple seed into an apple tree that will give you apples. It doesn't need you to stand there and go, remember, apples, apples, apples. No oranges, no peaches, apples. Doesn't need us to do that. Nature knows how to turn an apple seed into an apple tree. And the law of karma doesn't need us standing there either, reminding it, this guy's got his due coming. This guy's got some bitter fruit to eat. Doesn't need us. We are not the karmic police. It's not up to us what fruit someone gets, when they get it, how they get it. Not up to us. We forgive because we deserve to be free. And that's the key. When we hold on to our pain, to a grudge, it's literally like saying, you hurt me once. Or maybe you hurt me 20 times. Now, I'm going to hurt myself every minute of every day for the rest of my life because what you did to me wasn't already enough. Now I need to hurt myself also. You acted in ignorance, in anger, in illusion, in ego. Therefore, on the altar of your ego, your arrogance, your anger, your illusion, I'm now going to sacrifice my joy, my peace, my freedom. That makes no sense, my friends. We've already been hurt. We've already been abused or cheated or betrayed or lied to. Why in the world would we now take the side of the person who hurt us and say, well, you only hurt me this much. I'm going to come in and finish the job for you and make sure that I'm hurt this much. Why would we do that? It makes no logical sense. But when we hold on to pain and grudges, and the identification as I'm the one who was abused, I'm the one who was lied to or cheated on or betrayed, it's literally like saying, okay, you want to hurt me? Fine. I'll do it for you. I will make sure for you that I am never in peace, that I am never in joy. Makes no sense. So we forgive because we deserve to be free. Whatever someone has done to you, you deserve to be free. And forgiveness simply is that. Forgiveness simply is whatever you've done to me, however you've hurt me, I still deserve to be free. Because whatever you did in your ego, your ignorance, your arrogance, your illusion. You didn't do it to me because I'm a bad person and I deserve pain. You did it to me because you're in your own ignorance right now. But that doesn't change me deserving freedom. And so that's why we forgive. Because we deserve to be free. And whether it's something small, whether it's something big, taking care of our own hearts is the most critical thing to do. Taking care of our own inner peace, our own inner sthiti, what we call the swasthiti, my internal circumstance, situation. That's my job. Not to punish you. And of course, as it said so beautifully, getting angry is like drinking poison but expecting the other guy to die. When we hold a grudge, it's literally we're the ones who are drinking the poison. We're the ones getting ulcers and not able to sleep at night and stressed. But thinking that we're somehow hurting the other person. Half the time they don't even know you're holding a grudge. So whatever has happened to you, you deserve to be free. And so you need to let go in service of your freedom. Because that's your highest calling. Your freedom, your joy, your truth. No one's ignorance, no one's ego, no one's arrogance is worth your freedom, your joy, your peace. And we don't have control over what other people do, but we do have control over our own reactions to it. And so we clean our hearts every day. Let go, and let go, and let go, so that we can be free. And by the way, forgiveness, we talk about forgive and forget. And the forgetting part is interesting because I don't think we're meant to forget. I don't think that situations and circumstances are given to us in our life just for us to pretend that they never happened. What we are supposed to let go of is the emotional sting to it, the emotional reaction to it. But we're supposed to remember the lesson. So if you cheated me or betrayed me and you were my best friend, but we went into business together and you stole all my money and betrayed me, well, I don't want to hold on the anger and the sting for my life. I don't want it to be so that every time I think of you, my stomach hurts. That's why I forgive. But the lesson of, hey, don't go into business with friends, that's actually a good lesson to hold on to. It's like, my favorite example of this is you're walking through the park and a wild, mad dog jumps out of the bushes and bites you. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to chase it through the park trying to bite it back? Right? Anybody going to do that? I'll show you. Get back here. Of course not. We're going to go to the hospital or the doctor or our own home, depending on how bad the wound is. We're going to bandage it up. We're not going to need to go into therapy or psychoanalysis because the dog bit us and we're, so distraught about it. How dare it, the dog bite me? Maine kuch to kiya nahi usko. I'm a good animal rights activist. I'm a vegan. Don't wear leather. Don't wear silk. How dare the dog bite me? We don't think like that because we understand it's just a dog. And we understand the dog is sick. When we say mad dog, it literally means because the dog has rabies. An illness. The dog is sick. That's why it's biting. So we don't need to go into therapy. We don't need psychoanalysis. We understand, okay, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Made the wrong decision. But we take the lesson. And we don't necessarily walk through that path in that park until we're sure that the dog is no longer there. So I don't think it's so much forgive and forget that it ever happened, but we let go of that emotional response to it. So when I remember the lesson, I do so without my stomach hurting, without starting to cry, without becoming tense and stressed, as though I'm reliving it. Without feeling like my blood is boiling in anger. So we let go of the emotional reaction, but we take the lesson so that we, to whatever extent possible, can avoid being harmed in the future. If anyone here has a question, yes. No, सूरज, अच्छा पीछे भी है, चलो यहाँ भी है, पीछे भी है, ठीक, okay. First there and then you.
Sadhviji Pranam. I will listening you from last 3 days. I just have one simple question. I will listening many spiritual gurus and all the says माया को त्याग दो. But they have a very उनके पास बहुत बड़ी संपत्ति है, बंगले हैं, गाड़ी है, मतलब लोग बहुत लग्जरी लाइफ जीते हैं और सब बोलते हैं कि माया को त्याग दो, मोह है, ये सब, इसमें कोई सुख नहीं, आनंद नहीं है, लेकिन वो सब 5 स्टार फैसिलिटीज में जीते हैं. तो वैसे सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन है, मनी एंड थिंग्स इज इम्पोर्टेंट और नॉट?
So there's a very beautiful and very famous philosopher named Abraham Maslow. And I won't go into the details of his research and teachings, but he left us with a very, very beautiful and very apt, what we call hierarchy of needs. Now, you can imagine a pyramid, okay? And you've got the base and then you've got the top. Now, at the base of that pyramid are our actual needs. And this pyramid is aligned with our happiness and joy. Okay? So you can imagine you've got a pyramid of your needs. And then there's also a line that goes with it. So as you move from the bottom of the pyramid to the top, your happiness is getting more and more and more. Now, at the very bottom of the pyramid are our, what you could consider logistic needs. We need to have food to eat. अगर आदमी रोज बिना खाते हुए सो रहा है, chances are he's not going to be very happy. If we're going to sleep hungry every night, or if I'm unable to feed my family, मेरे बच्चे को भूख लग रहे हैं और मेरे पास कुछ साधन नहीं है उनको खाना खिलाना. It's very difficult to be really happy, really in peace, when your stomach is empty and you have no way to fill it, when you're not able to feed your loved ones. It's very difficult to be deeply happy when you don't know where your next meal's going to come from, when you don't have a roof over your head, or you have a roof but it's leaking, or barish ki mausam aane wale. It's about to rain. So we need this basic, fundamental needs to be filled. Food, shelter, basic education, health care, and the ability to be free, meaning, tonight I would like to go to the movies, or I would like to go for a cup of chai or coffee with my friends. Now, if I'm so poor that if for 2 hours I stop working, and now there's not going to be enough money to give my children sweaters for the winter, I don't have freedom. If I'm ill and I really need to spend a day in bed, but I can't, because if I don't show up at work today, there's not going to be food on our table tonight. That lack of just basic facilities, necessities, freedom, steals most people's happiness. But beyond that, once we have that, our happiness no longer comes from having more money and more things. It's not the more the happier. Kuch nahi hai to unhappy. लेकिन जब इतना है कि मैं निश्चिंत हूँ, कि मैं ठीक से खाना खा पाऊंगी, ठीक से खाना खिला पाऊंगी, घर ठीक है, बच्चों को शिक्षा मिलेगा. Beyond that, the things that bring us happiness are not more money, more gold, more things. The things that bring us happiness beyond that are connection. Connection. Connection is critical. Now, most people think of connection in terms of my friends or my family members. And that's beautiful. But as Pujya Swamiji leads us in singing every night on the banks of Ganga, Sabse Unchi Prem Sagai, that highest form of love, the highest form of connection is with God. We know in families, in friends, there are beautiful moments and then there are difficult moments. There's divorce, there's betrayal, there's cheating, there's unfulfilled expectations, there's so much. So it's not that that connection in and of itself brings me always joy. But that connection with God does. God's not going to betray you, not going to harm you, not going to tell your secrets, not going to divorce you. So connection is critical. Another very critical piece is what we consider meaningful work. Something that at the end of the day, I know that it mattered to someone somewhere that I got out of bed that day. That me getting out of bed in the morning had an impact. Not just that my bank account became bigger or I bought more things, but actually that somewhere, someone was positively impacted by the fact that I chose not to stay in bed all day. And of course, there's a million different ways that that can happen. But to be able to be engaged whether it's the way we actually make a living or whether it's not. It may be what we do in our free time. But to have enough hours of our life, ones that are meaningful, that are making a difference in some way. Doesn't matter whether you're stuffing envelopes to raise money for a volunteer organization, or you're cleaning their windows, or you're painting a battered women's shelter, or you're making sandwiches for the poor, or you're designing the website for the foundation that makes the sandwiches and feeds the poor. Doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, that it's having an impact. Or, of course, that you're the CEO of a company that is, through the company, bringing great change, great assistance, great help to so many people. So many companies have beautiful foundations that are doing beautiful work in the world. Or maybe you're a company that's hiring differently abled people and giving them a job. Again, a million different ways. But that somehow my life is making a difference to someone other than my own ego. I remember when I was in the midst of getting my PhD in psychology, before I came to India, I was already very frustrated. I was a straight A student. I was a very good student. But I really wanted to help. I had gotten into psychology because I wanted to help children, especially children who had been abused and harmed in some way. And I kept feeling like I was jumping through hoops. And I remember saying to my advisor, when is any child actually going to be able to benefit from what I'm doing? That at the end of every day, I feel only like my ego has benefited. I got another A on an exam, or another teacher said, "Oh, that was a very smart comment you made in class." Or I got the highest grade on something, and so the ego was happy. But I was already aware that the only one being benefited by my existence was my own ego. No matter how much education I kept getting. And I was getting very impatient. When is it going to start really making a difference? Because this is critical to our happiness. And I was really aware of it. And when I came to India, aside from the deep spiritual experiences, when I met Pujya Swamiji, in addition to being so aware that I had met this divine being whose blessings, whose grace was going to transform my life, aside from that, when I saw all of the programs, the humanitarian work, the charitable work, the schools, the programs for women, the medical care programs, the programs for the environment, I realized that God was giving me a chance to be part of something that really made a difference, rather than just having my ego jump through hoops. And so that sense of meaning is critical. So don't worry about what others are doing. Gold खरीदने दो, गाड़ियाँ खरीदने दो, क्या फर्क पड़ता? कम से कम कोई तो खरीद रहे हैं, वो जो बेचने वाले आदमी को कुछ मिल रहे हैं, वो अपनी फैमिली को खाना खिला पाएंगे. ठीक है? Don't worry what they're doing. But worry about yourself. Of how am I going to find my joy? Make sure those needs are fulfilled. Make sure that there's, something in the bank so that you know if you're not working next month, there still will be food on the table. And then beyond that, focus on connection and meaning in your life. And you'll find a much, much deeper source of joy than just by having more things. Beautiful. Yes. Yahan pe aage Sandeep ji. Yeah.
Hello, I have another question. I was wondering, maybe it's a little bit of superficial question. You told in the previous answer to the previous question about the occurrence with the dog. I can understand that your karma decides how you react or how you act in certain situations, but do you in some way attract like the dog you interfere with? So in what sense you may be attracting certain situations in your life, or is that just too superficial?
No, it's not superficial at all, but there's one word that you're using that I'm not getting. Inko mic pakad lene do ek minute ke liye. You're speaking about our karma impacting us, that it's going to determine how we react. But then you used a word that I didn't properly understand. What were you asking about? Are we interfering with the dog?
Yeah, the dog gets angry, right? You walk through the park, but did you decide to go to the park to have that interference with the dog
I understand.
because you did something, or is that just superficial, and is that just a way to think about?
I understand. No, it's not superficial at all. It's beautiful. So he's asking, going back to the last question, was it my karma that made me decide to walk through that park in the first place? Right? That's what you're asking? Did my karma make me decide to walk through that park so that I would have this experience with getting bitten? Right? Was that the question? Okay. So, everything that happens, yes, of course, it's connected to my karma. But remember that my karma, or my destiny, the karma is the action. That which we receive from the karma, the fruits of that action, form my destiny. Now, we keep creating that. It's not that thousands of years ago, sitting somewhere in the heavens, it was written that on such and such a date you're going to walk through a park and get bit by a dog. We keep creating our realities. So for example, let's say that I made a decision that to me what was most important was to get ahead in my company. That I really, 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 kuch bhi ho jaye, I want to become higher up in the company. So I'm going to work 100-hour work weeks, 120-hour work weeks. I'm not going to get sleep. I'm not going to meditate. I'm not going to be with my family. I'm not going to have my spiritual practice or my exercise. I'm just going to work, work, work. Now, that's a decision I've made. It's karma. It's an action. I am literally acting through this 120-hour crazy work week just so that I can get a higher position, have more power, have more money, have more prestige. Now, as part of that, I can't be away from my phone even for 2 seconds, because what if there's a message and I'm supposed to do something and I don't see it, and somebody else sees it and does it? Then they get ahead and I miss the boat. Therefore, I am constantly staring at my phone. Again, it's a karma. That's a karma. It's an action. As I am staring at my phone, I find myself walking not on the correct path, not on the path that I walk every other day, but I've walked off the path onto a littler path accidentally because I wasn't paying attention, because I'm on the phone. And on that little path, the dog comes and bites me. Now, was that a result of my karma? Yes. I had made a series of decisions that led to me being in a place where the dog ended up being, in a situation where I wasn't paying attention to the fact that the dog came at me from quite far away. If I had been paying attention, I would have seen it. I could have gotten out of the way. I could have gotten back on the main road. But I was distracted. I wasn't paying attention. So in that case, being bit by the dog is the result of my actions. But it's not like thousands of years ago it was written, right? You see how we are creating our destiny every minute and every moment. It's also important to realize it's not a punishment or a reward. It's not like, oh, you've made bad decisions and therefore you're being punished. You made a bad decision not to meditate, so God sent the dog to bite you. We think like that though. Oh, I didn't meditate today, that's why I got bit. No, it's not a punishment. But the decision to forget everything else, to forsake everything else, just in service of more money, more power, more prestige, has led me to be very tired, which also could have led to the fact that I found myself on the wrong path, not paying attention. It has led me to be totally distracted, which brought me on the wrong path. Therefore, I found myself in the place where the dog was. Does that make sense how it works? Now, also, here's the other thing about karma. We tend to think of it as one directional, a cause and effect. Single cause, single effect. So for example, I made this decision about the job, therefore I get bit by the dog. Okay? Single cause, single effect. But karma doesn't only work like that. It's not I do something and then I get the reaction. Sometimes things happen not because of something you've done in the past, but because of something that needs to happen in the future. So, for example, there's a beautiful, beautiful story, history story, that we call the Ramayana. And there isn't time for me to go into all of it, but there's one story that illustrates this very beautifully. In our garden area here at Parmarth, Niketan, where we have all of the beautiful jankis, the statues. One of them is a statue of a young man, and he's got kind of a thing on his shoulder and what looks like weight, like a balance. But on each of them, one is sitting a woman, one is sitting a man. And that is the statue of Shravan Kumar, who's a beautiful young man, and he's taking his mom and his dad on pilgrimage. They are blind. Now, also at this time, totally unconnected, flash to another area. We have a king, Dashrath. And he's not able to produce offspring. And naturally, he wants to produce offspring. His wives want him to produce offspring. But nothing is happening. Okay, so we have these two unconnected situations. Shravan Kumar is walking through the forest with his parents. They stop to rest at a Dharmshala, a hermitage. And Shravan Kumar leaves his parents there and he goes to the river to collect water, to give his parents some water to drink. When he goes to the water, the river, at that time, coincidentally, King Dashrath is a very good man, a good king. We'll forgive him for the fact that he hunted. It was sort of, we'll call it part of the culture of the day. Was out hunting. And he hears the movement at the river, thinks it's a deer, and lets loose his arrow. Now the arrow hits Shravan Kumar. And the king comes to get what he thinks is the deer, sees this injured young man, feels horrible, obviously. He's just bereft. Tries to help Shravan Kumar. Shravan Kumar says, my life is seeping out of me. There is nothing you can do for me. But my parents are in that hermitage. They are blind. Please bring them this water. So the king, with a very heavy heart, goes and brings the water to the parents. And of course, the parents call out. They hear the noise, and they call out, Shravan Kumar, Shravan Kumar. Now you think, what's the king going to say? So he stays quiet. Again, they say, Shravan Kumar, Shravan Kumar, you've come back, talk to us. And finally the king brings himself to tell them this horrible mistake that has happened. Now, Shravan Kumar's parents, of pure heart, beautiful people, and it's said that people with pure heart have the Shakti, the ability to bless and also to curse. And Shravan Kumar's parents now curse this king, that just as we are dying of a broken heart due to the loss of our son, so you will die of a broken heart due to the loss of your son. But he didn't have any sons. Now you look at how karma works. Now, in order to fulfill this curse given to him by Shravan Kumar's parents, now the universe has to give him offspring. Okay? So again, it's a very long story, but eventually he has 4 sons. We go into the whole story of the Ramayana that I won't go into, but Lord Ram ends up getting, who's one of his sons, the divine incarnated, ends up getting sent off to the forest. The king has to send his son, his divine son, on the day of his coronation as king, into exile for 14 years. As he does, as Ram is being taken off and walking off into the forest with his brother Lakshman, his wife Sita, King Dashrath is crying, his heart is breaking. And in that moment, he suddenly starts calling out, Shravan Kumar, because he remembers, he understands. No one knows what's happened, but he understands. Now, I share that story because otherwise we could say, why did Ram have to go to the forest? It makes no sense. He's the embodiment of Dharma, of righteousness, of the perfect son, of the perfect husband, of the perfect brother. But he had to get exiled because his father had to die of that broken heart due to this curse. So you see all the different ways that karma is, and of course that's only one strand of it. There's of course all sorts of other strands that also weave in. Other people's lives, other karmas. So it moves in every direction. Sometimes something happens because something else in the future has to happen. Now, one way of looking at it is to say, King Dashrath had to have these sons because of the curse from Shravan Kumar's parents. But a much deeper way of looking at it, in terms of actually the incarnation of Bhagwan Ram on earth, is in order to have the son who's going to be this divine incarnated on earth, Shravan Kumar had to be killed and his parents had to curse the king because the king was supposed to have this offspring and he wouldn't have this offspring otherwise. So that which otherwise seems like a senseless tragedy for Shravan Kumar to be killed makes sense if you understand that the universe needed something to fall into place so that Lord Ram would be born. So it's very complex and very beautiful. But in terms of our lives, what's most important is to just understand that everything that is happening for a reason. But that doesn't mean that I need to be complacent. It doesn't mean, oh, chalo, I'm not going to do anything. Whatever it is, just let it happen. We need to be actively engaged in creating our destiny. Engaged in karma, in action. I'll leave you with a beautiful and easy teaching mantra. Pujya Swamiji taught it to me in the very beginning when I first came. Engage yourself in karma under the shade of Dharma with an awareness of Brahma. And what it means is engage yourself in action. Right action. Yogic action, when we say karma yoga, it's action leading to an awareness of oneness, or action stemming out of an awareness of oneness. So we act under the shade of Dharma. We act according to Dharma, universal Dharma, honesty, integrity, compassion, truthfulness, right? These sorts of universal commandments. But also our own personal Dharma. What is our path? And then, with the awareness of Brahma, means the awareness of God. So we're anchored and rooted in that connection with the divine. Yes?
I hope the following question is not too long of an answer, but where does the universe, if you say in some way the universe acts through you, so you're kind of a receiver, where does the universe want to go if you talk in that sense?
Yeah. The universe's goal is that we all wake up, that we realize the truth of who we are, that divine, the divinity within ourselves. That's why we take birth, is to be able. That's why human birth is considered the highest birth. Not just physical evolution-wise, but spiritual evolution-wise. Because only as humans do we have that consciousness that enables us to say, who am I? Who am I? That enables us to ask, what is my Dharma? So, the reason that we get this birth is to realize our oneness with the divine. that truth of who we are. That's why we take birth. Not to become the head of a company or to become rich or to become the most powerful or beautiful, but to realize who we are. That's the agenda of the divine. That's what the universe is supporting, is us to wake up and to realize our oneness with the Creator, with the creation. To realize that that which seems to be separate is actually one. And in that awareness, we become one again. Even though we've never been separate. But we remember our oneness. That's the goal. So that's where everything that we're given is given to us in service of that goal. Yeah. Palviban.
प्रणाम। मैं जो प्रश्न पूछना चाहती हूँ वो कल एक प्रश्न हुआ था, उसके उत्तर में एक रेफरेंस में पूछना चाहती हूँ। कल एक बहन जी ने पूछा कि लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं वैसा बोलते हैं, तो हमें जहाँ फोकस रहना है वो रहना है, बाकी किसी की ध्यान मत दो अगर तुम सही हो तो। अब जब तुम्हारे माँ बाप खुद के ऐसा करते हैं तो उस टाइम तुम इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते हो, तो एक तो उस टाइम क्या करना चाहिए। और दूसरा ये बात है कि जैसे शंकराचार्य जी है, उन्होंने वो अकेले थे, संतान थे उनकी माँ के, तो उनकी माँ ने बोला तो भी उन्होंने संन्यास ले लिया 8 साल में। और भगवान महावीर है, उनको उनके माता पिता ने ना बोला कि नहीं संन्यास नहीं लो तुम, तो वो जब तक जीवित थे उन्होंने संन्यास नहीं लिया, जब उनकी देहांत हो गई तभी उन्होंने संन्यास लिया। तो विच इज़ द राइट वे? यानी माँ बाप को तुम दुखी करके, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं कितना भी अच्छा काम करने के लिए जा रही हूँ पर मेरे माँ बाप ना बोल रहे या मेरे माँ बाप राजी नहीं है, वो दुखी, मैं अच्छा कर्म करती हूँ फिर भी वो दुखी हो रहे, समथिंग और इग्नोरेंस और व्हाट्सोएवर, तो मुझे क्या करना चाहिए? व्हाट इज माय धर्म?
ब्यूटीफुल,
थैंक यू।
तो जब हम शंकराचार्य जी के जीवन को देखें और भगवान महावीर का जीवन को देखें, स्थिति अलग है, इसलिए the right thing was different. She asked, just for those who didn't understand the Hindi, that it's easy to ignore when someone else tells you that you're doing something wrong or, starts complaining or trying to tell you what to do. But when those are your parents, when it's your parents telling you what to do, that's very difficult. And what to do in that circumstance when, we have 2 examples of Shankaracharya or Bhagwan Mahavir, one taking sannyas even against the wishes of the parents, one waiting till the parents passed away in order to do it. Sthiti alag hai. But हमें ये देखना है अपने धर्म, in service of our parents. We're not supposed to forget ourselves. Nato, it would again make no sense. See, मेरी जो दृष्टि है, by heart I am a scientist. So I have a spiritual perspective, but I also have a scientific perspective. And for me, जब तक कुछ sense नहीं लगता, I can't buy it. I can't digest it. And so to me, I think, okay, so parents have given birth to you. That was their dharma, to give you this beautiful life. But now you are supposed to sacrifice your life, like not live it, because it doesn't make your parents happy. वो तो उल्टा थोड़ा सा लगता है मुझे कि why would they give you a life? Why would the universe give you a life through them if you're not going to be able to live that life because it goes against what they're saying you should do. See, to me that makes no sense. Scientifically, just basic common sense. If we say the universe has a plan, the universe makes sense, why would you create a being full of skills and abilities and compassion and intuition, their own sense of Dharma, just to make that being stuck because someone else doesn't want them to live it? It's like saying, I find a baby bird. A baby bird falls out of the nest. It's going to die. I save it. I put it in a box, I feed it, I nurse it back to health. Now I keep it in a cage. आप बताओ सही है कि नहीं? वो तो मैंने बचाया उसको, मेरे वजह से जी रहे। अधिकार है या ना मेरा? उसको बॉक्स में रखना पूरे जीवन तक? नहीं. It was my Dharma, my opportunity, you can say, to nurse this baby bird back to health, but that does not give me the right to keep it in a cage for the rest of its life. It does not give me the right to say, you're my bird now. You don't get to fly because I saved you. Now you have to just do whatever I say. So in the same way, with parents, yes, we have a Dharma as a child to ensure that they are taken care of. So for example, in my personal case, I'm an only child. When I decided I wanted to take sannyas, obviously one of the very important things to think about is what's going to happen to your parents, right? Now, by God's grace, I came from a situation in which they were very well-to-do. And I knew, because they told me, that even if I never earned a penny, it didn't matter. They had enough that they could live very comfortably for their entire lives, even I do not earn 1 penny my whole life. Now that was a blessing, because if that was not the case, if by taking sannyas my parents would be hungry, वो तो अधर्म है. But making sure they're taken care of in terms of they're fed, they're housed, they have medical care, they're comfortable, they're appreciated, that is very different than sticking your entire life in a box and handing it to them on a platter. That's not your Dharma. Now, sometimes we are blessed by parents who can see the benefit of a spiritual path. Pujya Swamiji was blessed in that way. But it's very rare. Because remember, yes, हम माँ बाप को भगवान मानते हैं. But actually they're humans. And that's not bad. It's just the reality. They're humans. We worship them as divine because they gave us life. हम चरण में प्रणाम करते हैं. But actually they're human, meaning they have their own ignorance, ego, fears, illusions. And that's not meant to steal my life. And so in my case, as an only child, when I was going to take sannyas, Pujya Swamiji made me go and get my parents' blessings. I was 28 years old at the time. And he made me get their blessings. And the one thing that my mom said was she had very much wanted grandchildren. So, and I'm the only child. So, मैंने उनको कहा, I said, look, I understand you want this very much. एक बार जब संन्यास लूंगी तो पीछे तो जा नहीं सकती हूँ. अब तो फिर possibilities will be over. I said, but I haven't taken it yet. मैं लेने जा रही हूँ. But if you really want a grandchild, I will do that for you. मैंने सीधी सीधे उनको बोला था. मैंने कहा कि I will go out, I will get myself pregnant. And I was serious. It was not an offer that I didn't intend to keep. If she wanted it, I would have done it. I said, I will go out, I will get myself pregnant, I will carry the child for 9 months, I will give birth to it, and I will hand it to you. And if that is what you want, I will do that for you. You have given me life, I can give you 9 months of mine. I said, but what I won't do is give birth to the child and then move down the block from you and raise that child a block from your house. I said, that I am not prepared to do. And so she thought about it. She really thought about it, and she came back and she decided no, that, she didn't want to be a mother again. But that for me was where I had to really understand, okay, what is my Dharma to offer to her as my mother? But what is my Dharma to myself, to the life that I know I'm meant to live? And I knew that I was just not meant to live on their corner with my babies. But I was prepared to give her 9 months of carrying one. Though in every situation you have to see, what is it that you can do that will make them comfortable? But remembering that ultimately your Dharma, your duty, is to yourself and your path. Yeah, so we don't let other people, chahe they're our parents, chahe they're anybody, we don't allow their narrow vision or their agenda, no matter how much we love them, we don't allow that to prevent us from living our Dharma. Now in the case of Bhagawan Mahavir, I don't know much about his life, but what I would say is that I'm sure if you go into the depth of his life, there will be some beautiful karmic reason why he was meant to take sannyas later. Not just because his parents said it, but there's going to be some other karma, destiny part of his life or of his teachings that is meant for. Beautiful. Baki hum kal lete hain. We'll take the rest of the questions tomorrow and have a beautiful rest of your evening. Beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And a very, very, very happy New Year to you all. And look so forward to being together with you again tomorrow.